to a slightly disorganized Montana garage. I still have a big old box with an engine inside of it. My brand new bad boy 427 small block that has a unfortunate leaking rear main seal sitting here in this crate for a week. I'm a little frustrated about that. The engine builder, CNC Motorsports, said they would, get right on it, but I had it ready to go last Monday, and today is the following Monday, and it's still sitting there. Good news is they did just email me that there's a truck coming tomorrow, so hopefully it just takes a couple days to get to them. It takes them a couple days to fix it and a couple days to get back, because June 15th and Big Sky Race Week is not that far away. So we still just have the big empty space here. The good thing is, because I haven't been able to do much of this, there's a couple little things I need to address I could be working on, but I haven't been. I've been playing with this thing. So in this video, we're going to talk about what I've done, what I still need to do, and we're going to go for, hopefully, we're going to go for a ride in the delivery. I think it's good to go, and it should back out of the garage under its own power. So let's find out. All right, before we get too excited, obviously, if we're going to drive this thing, I got to move a bunch of stuff. But the first thing we need to do is make sure it's going to start. It should start. Maybe a week or two ago, I replaced the radiator, and I fired it up then and let it run for quite a while. Since then, I've done a few other small things, but nothing that I can think of that would make it not start. But stranger things have happened, so before we move a bunch of stuff, I'm just going to make sure it fires up. The only problem with doing that is the only thing harder than getting it to start is getting it to start again. Once it runs, it's kind of tricky to get it to start again, and that's something I need to figure out probably. But I suppose we should do a couple random checks, make sure still got some oil in it. We got to open up a fuel shutoff, which for some reason is way harder to open and close than it used to be. Make sure there's gas in the primer tank a little bit. I have messed with and completely redone the linkage, so let's make sure it doesn't seem like that's sticking. Last time I started it, I used a battery charger, but I don't think I should have to do that this time. All right, let's see what else. Should be it, I guess. The trolley, just make sure we got starter action. We got starter action. All right, primer pump. Hold her open, spin her over. Give her the juice. Oh, and nothing happened there. So are we not getting... I didn't let the primer pump run long enough. It got quiet, so I thought it was working. Oh boy, she's squirting gas in there now. Ah! then we'll move a bunch of stuff and try to go out there. So I moved a few things. I added a little gas to the surge tank up front, took some stuff off the top, closed down the back gate, and we are ready to try to go on. It's not our maiden voyage, but I feel like it is because I haven't driven this thing in a couple years. Last time I really drove it, I tried to make a YouTube video of it, and that's when it started sputtering and it was coughing or backfiring back through the intake, and I spent a whole bunch of time in some other videos trying to figure that out. I think I got it figured out now. So first of all, I'm not super confident that I'll get to start again. That's, like I said before, it's a little tricky. After it runs, for some reason, it doesn't want to run again. I think it should start, but it might not fire it up. And then this is pretty much zero confidence that we're not going to have any issues along the way. I mean, I'm just trying to go around the block, but it's just, I'm still scared that we're not going to make it. So, I guess might as well try it, huh? See what happens. I think it's been so long. I think that is open. Neutrality. Still not seeming great, but I don't know if you guys can hear me. These things don't idle. Yeah, so it's not great. Sure we got brakes, I guess be a good idea. So to shut it off, you got to kill the fuel. So it burns all the fuel out of the cylinders and whatnot. You know, obviously it doesn't run great, but that's kind of how these things are. They're designed for idle and wide open throttle. When you're trying to just kind of pussyfoot around the neighborhood, whenever you're just kind of like, you know, it doesn't have like an accelerator pump and all that stuff like a carburetor, or the EFI has different things to manage your drivability, and this doesn't have that. It's designed for wide open throttle. So, and I haven't driven it for 2 years, and it feels a little weird in the front end, and I want to be sure everything's okay. So it's not like I was anywhere near wide open throttle. I was just trying to get through the drivability part, and now it should be better than that. I used to drive it, you know, a little bit, and I don't even have any idea what pill or jet I have in there. I mean, it should be somewhere as close to what I think I need, but what do I know also? But it runs, right? And we weren't having I was a little worried when we first took off because it stuttered and sputtered, but I think that's just more of that's just partial throttle. If I were to just drive through that, then I think it's fine. But it's hard for me to drive through that when I don't trust the car and I'm just in the neighborhood and I don't want to, like, you know, cause too much trouble. So anyways, that was our little drive. I'll get out, we'll do a little walk around and talk about the stuff that I've changed recently and my plans that I have to change more stuff. And then, it's going to be crappy weather for a few days, but hopefully we're going to do a few things and then start driving this a little bit where I can build up some confidence. Like I felt like the front end felt funky, and I don't know, the fenders are loose. They were moving. I felt like I was kind of like almost scared a tire was falling off or something. So I didn't want to do too much, but we'll check everything out. We'll build up some confidence and we'll eventually get this thing moving more than 20 miles an hour, hopefully. All right, first thing I noticed, I came back here to close the door because it's windier than heck out there, and we got some drippage. I gave the old smell test. It's radiator, which I could kind of tell anyways. Puddle action. Now I see we've lost a little out of the overflow because I don't have anything there, but it also looks like maybe, possibly, brand new radiator. So the radiator itself shouldn't be leaking. Got a little evidence on that lower hose mount. Could have totally just all been overflow, I guess, because that could have came from the overflow. If that hose was leaking, you think it'd be all in that little trough under the radiator there. It never got very hot. That was the problem. One of the reasons I quit driving it. I couldn't drive it without it getting super hot. I mean, we never even saw 180. Now, one thing about that though, that's oil temperature and not water temperature, because I don't have a spot to put the water temperature gauge on this intake anywhere. Maybe there's a way to do it in the heads. Like, I don't know what this big plug in the front in the heads is, but right now I have it over here, and it's way over here in the oil after it comes off the engine, because the oil temperature gauge is coming out of this oil filter set up over there. So it's probably not very accurate, but I think generally the oil is hotter than the water. Is that right? Maybe? Seemed like I read that a while ago and I was trying to look it up. Anywho, I'm going to crawl under there or wipe that up and then crawl under there and just make sure that bottom hose is tight. And if it is, we'll assume it was just coming out of the overflow, because like I said, it's just a brand new radiator. I thought maybe one of my fancy welds up here, they're not my welds. I couldn't do that. That's fancy TIG weld, and I had a guy here in town do that. But nice and dry around there, so he did a good job on that. We'll figure that out, and then we'll talk about, like I said, we're going to talk about some of the stuff I have done and what we have to do so we can start using this car more. I just watched some of that driving footage back, and I got to apologize because I got my supposedly fancy new microphone on, and I had it on in the car, but the audio from that little car ride is terrible. I don't know if something was interfering with it in there, or if it's just shouldn't have bought the cheapest one they had on Amazon. It wasn't the cheapest one. It just wasn't probably one of the better ones. But hey, you know, I'm not making a lot of money from this. I got to be frugal with my YouTube purchases. I got purchases for this thing to make. Anyways, hopefully next time we go for a drive, the audio will be better. You couldn't even hear what the engine sounded like or nothing. It was terrible, I guess, how I'd explain it. So, like I said, we'll do a little walk around, talk about some of the stuff. One of the things maybe you guys have noticed is there's no door handles. And that's one of the things I need to fix, because I want to race this car, and you have to have, you know, if you're upside down beside the track, they got to be able to open the door to get in there. So I got to put some door handles on here. So my uncle built this car back in the 80s. He did this. So this is the little solenoid. He had a button, and you push the button and it would pop the door open. It's kind of cool, but it doesn't work for racing. And I don't know, not how I'm probably going to keep it. So I was thinking I was always going to put those Kindig door handles. If you look those up, it's still flat and you push part in and then you pull it open. But I'm not opposed to just, you know, it's not like the 55 to 57 door handles look bad. I mean, I'm used to looking at it like this, but anyways, that's one of the things on the list of door handles. And the reason I bring that up is because there's also no handle back here. So there used to be, I think right under the V, like a T handle. you grab and twist and then lift that gate up. Well, I don't have that. So what I got to do is I got to crawl through the dang car every time I want to open the gate, which is why I pretty much always just have it open. Because this is, you know, less than convenient, to say the least. But, you know, what do you do? The price of being cool, or thinking you're cool, or trying to look cool anyways. And then this thing weighs like 8,000 pounds. It's got this little latch here. I can never remember which way it's got to go. Like that way. Try to get it to where it'll latch before it falls down and decapitates me. I think we're good. All right, so that was that part of the adventure. So yeah, it has this little lever here, so I don't know, maybe my uncle's thinking there's some way to run a cable out somehow to open it. I don't know. It'll probably stay just like this because I don't know what else to do, I guess. It would be nice to be able to open it. I guess I could find a handle and remake it to open it. But anyhow, enough of that story. So what else I've been up to? So we talked about the radiator. I put a brand new radiator on it because the other one leaked so bad and all these little fittings were just soldered on. I was going to paint those areas black again. You know, I ground it off so we could weld on it. And then once I got them back, I just tried to kind of, I don't know, go with the aluminum in the centers, squares look. We'll see. I might paint it black. So I did that. I replaced the whole throttle setup because the old throttle wouldn't go to full throttle. It had this guy on there. Anyways, I had a new thing I'd bought like years ago and I finally put that on. It's maybe not perfect, but it's better than it was. When we were trying to figure out the backfiring through the intake, I replaced the whole ignition system. New MSD box, new wires, new distributor, new coil. So I guess that's about everything. The old distributor was a tack drive distributor, and this was the tack. It ran by a cable. I don't have that anymore, obviously, because I went with the new MSD distributor. So one of the things I'm in the process of doing is I got a new tack and I'm going to put it right here instead of out on the dash. So I just mounted that yesterday. I got to do a bunch of wiring. That's one of the things we're getting ready to do. So we got to wire that up. This other gauge out here is a fuel pressure gauge, and that kind of has to be on the dash because you got a line of fuel going to it. So we'll get rid of the tack, but that fuel pressure gauge is going to stay not on the dash, I guess, on the cowl outside of the car. In here, the seats were mounted with a like a swivel setup. This was what was in there before. This bottom piece was in the bottom of the car. This piece was on the bottom of the seat. And then you can see they would swivel, which I guess was kind of cool. But again, for NHRA, they got to be bolted in 4 places. So that would be, even though it's bolted to the floor, it still only had 1 bolt securing the seat to that. So I redid that. I made these little brackets. So we got the seat nice and solid. I put a brace back here. That's also required for NHRA. So seat is solid as a rock. I just got to drill a few more holes in this and then it will still be adjustable back and forth, but I got it where I want it and that's all that really matters, right? The other seat, I left the swivel design, but I took it all out of there and I cut it down because my uncle was a little short dude and he had these seats I'd say about 1.5 inches higher. So it felt like my head was going through the ceiling. And he also had them a little further forward. So I got them back a little bit and lowered a little bit from where they were. Now this seat, you can see it doesn't have the brace and it's still got the swivel design down there. You can't see that, but you can see how it's not super solid, where this one don't move. So I may do something different, but it's just the driver's seat that's required for NHRA. Now this, you know, maybe still isn't super safe, I guess, if somebody's riding in here and we're out doing some street stuff or whatever, but good enough for now. The other thing I did recently is I cut a coil out of the front springs. Before, when I got this car from my uncle, it was even lower. It had some coils that were cut quite a bit, and the headers were just in the weeds. They were dragging all the time. So when I changed this car, I took the stock springs out of there and put it in there. And then I thought it sat too high. Maybe if I have the ability to figure it out, I'll do like a before and after. I'll find you a picture of what it was before. But I cut one coil and now it at least kind of tucks the front tire. It's got a little bit of a rake. The headers are still kind of low. If I have to, I could probably go to like a Patriot header like I did in this car, where they go through the headers past where the bell housing mounts used to be. And those ones are designed to go under those mounts. Those mounts are gone in that car, but the headers go so low because they go below where those mounts would have been. So anyways, I kind of like the way it sits right there. We'll see if I have issues with the headers dragging and we'll figure something out with that. So we did that recently, and then it seems like there's a couple other things. I guess, well, I've been working on some stuff back here. Can't do nothing left-handed. All right, so the other thing I've been working on is this fuel cell. So right now it is inactive, inoperable, just kind of taking up space. And we're running off of this little tank in the front. Well, bam. I'm gonna guess that's a 4-gallon tank. A couple years ago, I drove to a car show that was like 8 miles away. I made it there and partway back before I ran out of fuel. So if I'm gonna actually try to drive this car, I gotta have more fuel capacity. So we're gonna use the fuel cell in the back. Now my uncle already had this in here, but he had nothing hooked up to it. And so that's what I'm trying to mess with right now. He just had this blocked off with a little plate. So I added this little filler nozzle and we put some fittings. That's gonna be a vent. This is gonna be a return line down here on the bottom. I have, I think, a fitting and a hose already. I was getting fancy. So I would have thought you would wanna put this guy back here. There's no sump, but you'd think you'd want it in the back, but maybe that's the lowest spot. I don't know. There was a fitting there, so I had to use that spot. It was a smaller one, so I took it out and put I think it had a 6-6 fitting. I put a -8. And then what we got is a pre-filter, a Holley pump, and then another filter, and then we got to run fuel lines to the front and return lines back to here. That's what those fittings are for. With this mechanical injection though, you can't run it off an electric fuel pump. That's a Holley black pump. It puts out a lot of fuel, but I can't run the engine off of that pump. So that pump is going to transfer fuel up here. And I've always kind of wanted to do this and make it more, have more fuel capacity, maybe more streetable. I explained they're not super streetable, but hopefully I can learn with the tuning and make the streetability a little better. But I just needed the fuel capacity, but we can't use the fuel pump to go right into the injection because it runs off of this mechanical fuel pump. However fast the engine turns, the fuel pump turns half that speed, and that's kind of how the whole system works. So the fuel pump in the back is going to transfer fuel to a tank up here. And I've always wanted to do that, and I was trying to figure out ways to do it in the past. And there was people used to mount like a little Holley fuel bowl on a surge tank, and I was going to that's kind of what I was waiting. And I was going to make that little setup someday or have somebody weld something together for me. Well, I was doing some research because I've been working on this car a little bit, and I found a new tank that's pretty fancy, and it has some magic on the inside of it that's going to make this all work. Because you got to transfer that fuel to the front, but then you got to shut the fuel off when you don't need the fuel, and there's return lines. And anyways, we'll go into more about the magic in that tank. I don't know if it'll be this video or the next video because it just showed up today in a box, and that's one of the things we're going to do is mount that tank that I have. Is going to go, I think it's going to go right here. We're going to get rid of this guy altogether. That's going to go away, which would be nice because then I got room. I don't know if I'll run a bumper anyways, but this might have even interfered with the grill. So I'll do a grill and a hood bar for sure. Maybe a bumper now. That means that's not going to be in the way. We'll see. But the tank is going to go right here. And like I said, there's some magic or science behind how it all works, and we'll go over that when we're installing it. So can't wait for that. So here's my box of goodies I got from Summit recently. So we got a whole bunch of fittings. Got some weld bungs. We got some hose. We got, I think, 3 different sizes of hose. Here's my fancy surge tank. Like I said, we'll show you that later. So I got a bunch of my wiring stuff out because that's what I was getting ready to do. I got that fuel pump mounted back there, and I was waiting to run the lines until that surge tank showed up. Well, it's here. But before I start running all that, I think I'm going to wire. I got to wire the fuel pump. It's got to run off a relay. I have a bunch of LED lights for the gauges and the dash lights. So I'm going to put new LED lights in there. I'll put LED lights in the gauges, get rid of this gauge. We got to wire up the tack. I installed like a little dimmer switch right here because none of this stuff goes through the dimmer and those LED lights. I don't know if you guys are running any of those, but they don't dim very well anyways, but this is supposed to make them dim, right? We'll see. So that's kind of stuff I'm messing around with today. We'll do a little wiring, maybe mess with a few other things, and we'll see how far we get. Guess we'll plop these guys back in here just to keep small children from falling into the intake. When I'm driving it with no filter, obviously, when there's nothing in there. When I bought these, they're kind of designed, you can put a little dab of silicone and hold them in place. But I think it was Mike Finnegan in that Blasphemy 55 he has. In the original build of that car, he had a stack injection like this. I think his was probably EFI though, instead of mechanical injection. But he ran these little filters in there. And I think he said he lasts like 200 horsepower because of these, restricting the airflow. We can't be losing. We don't have a lot of horsepower to give up. So we don't want to lose 200. So, I don't know. I don't drive it that much. So running open is probably not great, but that's what we'll do for now. They have little booties you can put on the top. So at least it'll keep like rocks and gravel, from going in. I'm sure those are a little restrictive too, but they're just more like almost like a hairnet or something with like a fine mesh that just, or not Velcro, what's the elastics around each ram tube. So we'll get some of those when we start driving it. They run these things in or not NASCAR, like sprint cars run these things a lot. I don't know if they all do, but a lot of them do anyways. And they have like big filter setups you can put on them. They're awful ugly is the only problem. And that's the stack sticking out of the hood. Well, sticking up anyways, I guess not out of the hood because the hood's not there. It's kind of the signature of this car to me. When I do put the hood on, I was surprised. I thought they'd be further, but the hood's like right here, so they don't stick up a long ways, but still looks pretty cool. Anyways, what are we doing? Oh yeah, we got wiring to do. I'm still talking instead of working. I forgot we got, as part of our wiring project, and I'm still waiting on, I ordered a clutch switch. So I'm gonna set this car up just like I have this car, where there's a clutch switch wired to the line lock through a relay, and then it all does magic and works. So we'll get into that too. But I have everything except for that clutch switch, I think, that I've ordered now. Coming soon. Another thing we did on the inside of the car here is the old clutch pedal. It's too hard for me to show you up under there, but it would move about 3 inches before it actually engaged anything. There was a bunch of slop in the mount and the bushings and everything, how it works. So I had to weld it. On this side, it's kind of a press fit to this little shaft, and I had to weld that because it just was sloppy and loose. It's still a little sloppy and loose because it's a shaft that goes through like a collar or a tube, I guess. I don't know. And there was like a piece of, maybe it's still laying here because I'm not very good at putting stuff away. Yeah, maybe I finally picked it up. There was like a plastic bushing kind of inside that tube the whole way, and it was all messed up and cracked and split, and I couldn't get the tube back. I couldn't get the shaft back through the tube, so I pulled that out of there, and then I think that's why it's a little sloppy now, but you don't feel it with your foot, so it's all good. And then the other side, I just talk forever. The other side, it goes through that shaft, and then it clamps in a piece that holds the rod. So when it moves, I don't know if you guys can see anything. See what's moving up there? I can't get to where you're at. So anyways, that was all. There's splines on the end of a shaft, and it goes in this collar, and that was all stripped out. And I think it had been stripped out before my uncle had kind of ground a groove in it and then put a bigger bolt in it to try to hold it. But that's why it would move like 2 inches and then engage the clutch. And then it would come up, and then you'd have to like pull it up the last couple inches. I couldn't get it tight enough on that far side because it's so stripped out. So what I really need to do is get a whole new clutch setup. But I didn't do what I need to do. I did what I could make work. And so I just welded it on the other side too. So now it's solid. I mean, it's sloppy a little bit because of that bushing that's gone. But like I said, you don't notice that with your foot. So now it works. It doesn't do the 2-inch thingamabobber. And the only downside is, before I welded on that side, you took a bolt off and then you could pull it out of there. Well, now I can't get it out of there because it's welded in there. It's not welded in there forever because I have a grinder. So I tried to just put a couple tack welds on, but they just broke right away. And I thought they were pretty good tacks too. So I had to kind of give her the onion, as they say, a little bit, and really weld her in there. But nothing a grinder can't fix if I need to get it back out of there. So anyways, clutch fixed. I think the first little bit of actual work we're going to do is we're going to replace all the bulbs with the LED bulbs in these gauges and in whatever's in here. And then we're going to wire them, all those lights. I don't really know how they're wired right now because this just has this like race panel thing. I can't remember what it's called or the brand of it. But all the wiring runs through this little guy right here. There's really not much else in the car. So let's see. So I can tell, I don't know if you can tell, you can see the little red bow tie come on. There are some light bulbs in there because I can see off on, right? So I have bulbs in here, but I'm going to replace them with LED bulbs. I can't tell. Let's see, does the gas gauge light up? Yep, there's one in there. Yeah, okay, so all those light up. So we got to find, I'm going to hopefully do this without tearing this apart. Hopefully I can reach underneath and just replace the bulbs. And then however, there's hopefully one wire going to all these lights coming from this thing on the middle switch of the lamps button. So all those wires have to run through this dimmer switch over here now. So we're going to figure that out. So all the new bulbs, all the bulbs are getting changed, and then we're going to run them all through that dimmer switch. And while we're in here, we have to figure out, we have the new fuel pump back there that I showed you. So that's got to run, that's what the next thing we're going to wire. That's got to run off a relay, but it also has to come off a switch. So I don't really have an extra. So there's not a switch here that says fuel, but there is a switch that says wipers, and I don't use those. So we may turn this wipers into like high wiper, might be fuel pump. We'll see. Otherwise, we got to put a new switch somewhere else. So that's our plan. But before I can do any of that, we got these stinking door bars in the way. Now in the 55, I put removable door bars, and look, it's not that big a deal to crawl in and out of the car with the door bar here, right? It's not a big deal at all. But I went ahead and splurged for the swing out door bars on this car. And let me tell you, like I said, getting in and out is not a big deal. But laying under the dash and trying to do wiring and trying to work on stuff with these bars in the way is a huge pain in the butt. So it is worth it to make these door bars swing out or make them removable just to work on the car. It's not a big deal, I don't think, crawling in and out, but working on the car is a big deal. So I may someday add removable door bars to this too, but I haven't done that yet. So to work under the dash, I'm just going to pull both these seats out of here, because otherwise you can't. It's like you got to be, I was going to say ventriloquist, but that's not the word. You got to be, what's the person that's all bendy? You know what I'm talking about. I don't, obviously. Yeah, that person. You got to be one of those bendy people. So we're going to get the seats out of the way. All right, it's been a minute. I had to go do some other stuff as usual, but I came back out to work on some of this wiring, and I didn't really film anything because it's just me contorted. I think contortionist, that's the word I was trying to think of earlier. Being a contortionist up under the dash there, and yeah, it wasn't pretty. It's not easy to get to any of this stuff, but hey, it never is, right? But oh, hey, I couldn't find my hat. But I found it. Yeah, much better. All right, so what we accomplished is really nothing. I got a huge mess in here still. But if we turn the old lamps on and then we turn the dimmer up, we got some nice green gauges. These are also green. The one out there had a different style of bulb, so I didn't have a LED bulb for it. It's got like just the push in instead of the push and turn with the prongs like the old car has. So the reason I wanted to get this dimmer, and I think I kind of screwed up here because maybe it'll be all right, but I have this same tack in my 55 over there, and this was way, way brighter than everything else. And so you have to buy this special dimmer for it, for LED. I don't know, maybe there's other ways around it, but this little stupid thing is like 50 bucks. And I just thought in here, because there's no headlight switch with the dimmer, they're just hooked up to a toggle switch, I would hook everything up to the dimmer. And it works, I mean, everything dims, but just like in the car, I think by the time I get those gauges where I want them, the tack is like super bright. And there's no way I can't open this up, there's no way to turn that green that I know of. So, I don't know, maybe I'll have to take all the other ones back off and just have them full power and just dim this guy, but we'll leave it for now and see how it is if we ever actually drive the car again. But anyways, accomplished something. I have, the tack kind of figured out how that was going to go in. These wires here are for the tack, so the tack doesn't work yet, but it will work shortly. And then we'll get going on wiring the relay for the fuel pump. But that might be for another day, or I might be back. Who knows? A couple days later, we're back. Same shirt. That's just coincidental. It's been a few days because, as usual, nothing seems to go as planned. But as you can see, we have the usual disaster area out here, and you can tell I have been doing some more wiring. So where are we at? I have not been doing a good job of showing you guys any of the work, but again, I'm still just wiring, and it's up under the dash, and there's not much to see or show really other than me struggling getting in and out of here 8 million times. So we got the tack all wired in. I haven't fired it up yet to see if it works, but I mean, I wired it, so it's probably gonna work, right? Fingers crossed. We got the tack wired in. We got the line lock wired in. Looks like I got to trim a couple zip ties there. Let's see. So tack and line lock. We straightened up a few other things just underneath that we had to, change or make a little better. I ran 2 wires back from under the dash, fished them all into this little tube here, all the way back, followed all the wiring. Come back here because I needed these 2 wires to come back here for, one is for the fuel gauge sending unit. Now this has a fuel sending unit in it, or a fuel gauge thingy-mabobber, I guess sending unit, right? Yeah, in it, but it's a Stewart Warner. So I don't know if that will operate the regular gauge, But while I was doing wiring, I have it hooked up to it now. We'll find out if it does anything. But while I was doing the wiring, I wanted to run a wire back here too at the time, so I didn't have to do it again later. So those 2 wires come back through that conduit, come under here around. One goes to there, and then the other thing I've been doing, and the lighting is terrible, is I got my relay for the fuel pump wired up. So that was what the other wire had to come back for. So there's the little relay right there. And then, you know, we got our wiring going to there. We got some wires going to a battery, some wires going over here to the fuel pump. So I just been messing with all that stuff. I've only had a little bit of time each night the last couple nights. So we got that all done. The last thing we're messing with as far as wiring, or at least for now, is the clutch switch. And that's what this giant Mongo wire is all about. So I think I've talked about this before, but I'm going to use the clutch switch to release the line lock and the 2-step at the same time. Well, as typically with my luck, as soon as I decided to start filming stuff, both my wife and the neighbor decided it's a good time to mow the grass and do the weed eating. So we might have to come back to the clutch switch here in a little bit. I'm back. It's been like a week, and I got the same wires laying on the floor, same mess on the workbench, same. I haven't been out here. I've been doing life and other stuff. So we still don't have the clutch switch wired. That's kind of where I left off with you guys. And I wanted to pick up with that, but I also want to get this video out because it's been forever again. I got people asking me like, how's it going? Where's the motor for the 55? Let's start with that. It is not right here. I still don't have a motor in there. I still don't have a big crate. I don't have my engine back. It is May 24th today. I think I have 22 days left until I keep saying Rocky Mountain Race Week. Big Sky Race Week. That's where I'm headed. Hopefully that's where I'm headed. Easy now. I don't know. It hasn't been awesome, I don't think, but I did get an email. I've talked to the guys on, what's today? Saturday. Yesterday, Friday, the engine shipped out of their shop. So, but we got Memorial Day weekend. I don't know if I'm going to see it next week or the following week. So I'm going to be struggling up against the deadline to get all this stuff back together, but I think I should still be able to make it happen so long as, you know, I don't have any issues. But that's the update on the 55. The update on the 57 is, like I said, I'm going to probably just kind of end this video here. We'll come back, talk about this clutch switch and what I'm doing with all that. It's going to tie the 2-step line lock and everything together, so when you're launching at the drag strip, anyways, I'll explain it in another video. How about that? And yeah, today, unfortunately, I have to start by working on my Ford work truck. I got a couple big jobs coming up in the mountains, and I got to make sure that thing gets me up there, and it is lacking maintenance big time. So I got to do some work on that today, and then we'll get back on this 57. Hopefully get some stuff back together. We'll go for another drive, and hopefully the microphone won't sound like terrible, and we can drive it a little further, hear it a little better, and see if the tack works and all the stuff we wired. And then we'll continue with plumbing in the new little surge tank, which is right here in this box. And we'll talk about how that's going to work. So thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. And hopefully within the next 6-8 months, I'll have another video out, and we'll do some more work on this thing. See you then.